Here is a deck tech sort of video, a little more in depth of the Toph deck. I've shown a lot of the decks with this 6-minute video of just going through the cards, so you can pause on it and take a look. This here, I just explain a little more about why I picked certain cards. I'm not going to tell you how to build a deck or what you should have or shouldn't have. There's tons of videos on that, and I hardly even listen to those. I just build what I think is fun, and maybe this can give you some ideas, and you'll always make your own kind of deck. So we've got Toph, the first Metalbender. So just looking at her, non-token artifacts you control are lands in addition to their other types. So that's good. We can metal bend then, yay. And at the beginning of your end step, earth bend 2. So right away we can start earth bending, which is what a majority of this is going to be about. So let's start off with all the cards that have earth bending. We've got Kyoshi, Legend of Kyoshi. So what's good about this is it gives you card draw. Draw cards equal to the greatest power among creatures you control. Then you get to earthbend. And after that, you get to transform into Avatar Kyoshi. So it gives all your lands or land creatures trample and hexproof. As well as you'll get to you got a mana dork as well. So it's a nice little versatile card to have in there. Rock-a-lanch. Just a way to, and you can flash it back. So a way to earthbend. Avatar Kyoshi. She has hexproof, but more importantly, at the beginning of combat, you get to earthbend 8 and untap the land. She's a bit expensive, but we do have ways to be able to afford her. Haru Hidden Talent. Whenever an ally enters earthbend 1. Luckily, there are lots of allies in this set, and there's ways to make allies. It doesn't say ally cards, so even tokens count. Cracked Earth Technique. Now originally I had Earthbending Lesson. It was 1 cheaper and you earthbend 4, but with the mana you have in here, should be able to afford this, and then you could earthbend 3 twice. Gaining 3 life is not the main focus. Earthbender Ascension. So again, you get to earthbend right away. You get to look for a basic land, put it on the battlefield, and whenever a land enters, if it has 4 or more quest counters, you get to put a +1 counter on target creature you control, and it gains trample. So another way to give trample and boost your creatures. Hard-headed Teacher. I mean, you could discard a card. If you do, return target instant or sorcery. You can grab another one of your earthbending things, or one of the tutors I do have in here. And every spell gives you earthbend 1. If it's a lesson, put an additional +1 counter. And it's all about earthbending and boosting. We got Bossing Say in there, so we can earthbend. Toph Earthbending Master. Every time a land enters, you get an experience counter, and on attack, you can Earthbend X. So it's nice because you could recur it over and over again. Every attack. Solid Ground. When it enters, Earthbend 3. If one or more +1 counters would be put on it, you put an extra one on there. Another way to boost your things up quickly. Earthbending Student, you get to Earthbend 2. Giving your lands Vigilance is great because you can attack with them, and then in your second main, you can start using that mana. There are ways, even though it's not recurring, like Toph on the attack, or Kyoshi on the attack, or during combat, I mean. There's some airbending, so you could blink them and get that earthbending trigger again. Boomy. Earthbend 4. Getting Boomy to do combat damage to a player is great because you get to untap all your lands. Use them for mana. But there's an additional combat phase. That's the big thing. You get to attack twice, which is nice. But only land creatures can attack. It goes great with the Earthbending Student. We've got Boomy again, but the Elliptic Earthbender. Earthbends 1, but whenever he attacks, you put 2+1 counters on each land. Again, quick boosting. The Boulder. The Earthbend X, where X is the number of creatures you control with a power 4 or greater. If you've been Earthbending quite a bit, you should have quite a few creatures 4 or greater. As well as he's 4 or greater, and some of your other creatures should be too. Toph the Blind Bandit, you get to Earthbend 2. Toph's power can spike depending on how much you've been earthbending. I just think she's a cool card. You got Boomy's Feast Lecture. So this makes a food token. You can Earthbend X, where X is twice the number of foods you control. This is kind of, you know, you get your Earthbending, but we do have a couple of cards in here that make food. It's kind of situational, but I mean, for 2 mana. Earthbending 2, at least. And we got Toph, Greatest Earthbender. Enchanters, you can Earthbend X, where X is the amount of mana spent to cast her. She'd be great in the command zone, or as the commander. But no, I got her in 99 mainly, so our lands can have double strike. So I was talking about airbending to recur some of the earthbending. We got a glider staff, so you can airbend up to 1 target creature. What's nice is it is an artifact, so we can metal bend it and use it as a chump blocker, so you can utilize its enter the battlefield trigger over again. Airbender Ascension. You can airbend up to 1 target creature. When a creature you control enters, put a quest counter on it. And if you have 4 or more, you can basically blink a creature. So again, we can use blink creatures with an enter the battlefield triggers, such as the Earthbending. A nice cheap way to blink a creature with Earthbending. And we've got Appa. And on attack, you can either give a creature you control flying, or you can airbend. Again, helping that blink out. So let's look at some of these buffs. I guess the Badger Mole should have been with the earth bending because he earth bends too as well, or she. But creatures you control with +1 counters on them have trample. Trample's very important, especially after you've buffed your creatures. You can definitely get your damage through. We do have ways to put +1 counters on things other than your lands, but the land, the earth bending land is our main thing. We got Firebender Ascension. Create a red soldier with Firebending 1. Whenever a creature you control attacking causes a triggered ability of that creature to trigger, put a quest counter on this enchantment. If it has 4 or more, you can copy that ability and whatnot. So what's nice is this works for a couple of the attack triggers we saw there for earth bending and air bending with Appa, so we can utilize those triggers twice. Tale of Katara and Toph. Creatures you control have, whenever this creature becomes tapped for the first time during each of your turns, put a +1 counter on it. So that'll work with your earth-bent lands when you're tapping them for mana. It'll work for your other creatures. You can get those +1 counters on everything. Treetop Village. Well, if you earthbend it, you could turn it into a 3/3 green ape. It'll have the +1 counters and trample. The Abandoned Air Temple, another way to put +1 counters on each creature you control. So just another buff there. Walls of Basing Say. Boy, somebody will probably target it to get rid of it, but you should have enough mana to bring it out and make it that threat. You can metal bend it as well. It wouldn't be as strong, but you'll be able to recur it, at least if somebody does try to remove it. Wartime Protesters are very handy because a lot of the people are allies. It gives them that +1 counter and it gives them haste. So that's for your non-earth bent things. The Buy-in Tree or the Great Henge. Great way to get mana. Life is a little bonus. But when non-token creatures enter, you get a +1 counter and you get to draw a card. It's got everything in it. Again, you can metal bend it, and you could try to keep people from removing it permanently. And Flopsy. Flopsy also puts +1 counters, buffing all your creatures. But what's really nice about Flopsy is each creature you control with power 4 or greater can't be blocked by more than one creature. He makes it more likely that trample damage will go through. So some of the ways to make mana, we've got the White Lotus tile. So that could give you X's. Add X mana of any one color, where X is the greatest number of creatures you control that have a creature type in common. You'll have lots of creature types in common. Lots of mana. Again, that one, this is an artifact. You can metal bend it. Try to prevent it from being removed. Tectonic Split. Now this one here has an additional cost. You have to sacrifice half the lands you control rounded up. It's got hexproof. The lands you control add 3 mana of any one color. You're tripling your resources. I don't really like using this late game though. I prefer using it early when I have 6 mana, if I have it in my hand, and if I've earth bent 3 of my lands, then I get those lands back and all my lands are tripling their mana. I do have to start over earth bending with but with all the earth bending we have, should be able to get quite a few of them earth bent up and have all that mana. Badger Mole Cub. Everybody loves the Badger Mole Cub. It can earth bend one, and of course they're going to be tapping creatures for an additional mana. With a Tectonic Split, hey, you got more than enough mana for all your mana needs. We got a way to look for a basic land, put it on the battlefield tapped. Like, it's very basic. This one here allows you, but everybody else as well, to be able to draw an additional card, and everybody may play an additional land. It's bittersweet, but I think the benefit for you outweighs the cost of allowing an opponent to do it. I guess depending on the deck they play. Got Explore, drawing a card, playing an additional land. The Earth King is kind of nice. You get to create a 4/4 bear. You just have a token out there. But whenever one or more creatures you control power 4 or greater attack, search your library up for that many basic land cards. You get a lot of landfall triggers on Toph for the experience counters, or the Earthbending Ascension, or you're just ramping up. Cycle of Renewal, sacrifice a land. You'd most likely sacrifice an Earthbent land that has, maybe it's Earthbent 1, Earthbent 2. You're getting your land back, and you get 2 more lands into play. Heartbeat of Spring. When you tap a land for mana, the player adds 1 mana of any type the land produced. Again, more ramp on top of the Tectonic Split and Badger Mole. Especially if you're, well, Badger Mole mainly if your lands are earthbent that you're tapping for mana. Honestly, I put the Cabbage Merchant in here for flavor, just because I thought it was funny. But he will get you food tokens. You could lose those food tokens, but you could tap them for mana. So, and the Cabbage Merchant again because I thought it was funny, creating those food tokens. That would help Boomy's Feast out, but again, they're situational. I just thought they were kind of funny. And Bosco, just a bear. He also creates a food token. But again, I thought he was kind of funny because he's just a bear. And we've got the Planetarium of Washitong, a good way to cheat something in, as if you needed to with all the mana ramp, but hey, every little bit helps. So we got a little bit of card draw here, probably not enough, but sometimes you won't be casting spells, you'll be using abilities. Draw a card for each creature you control with +1 counters. If you've been earthbending, that should be quite a bit, but those creatures also gain indestructible. So it's also a protection spell at the same time at an instant. Or you could use it as a threat when you're attacking. Humble Defector, drawing cards. Yeah, you let an opponent take him, but you don't really mind that because later I'll talk about Iroh, Tea Master, and how you can make allies based on how many things your opponents have of yours. Seismic Sense, look at the top cards of your library, where X is the number of lands you control. You can reveal a creature or land card from among them. So you could use it for ramp, you could use it for finding a creature. And the Earth Rumble Triumph. I use this mostly for card draw, So draw cards equal to the greatest power among non-human creatures you control. But if you need it for the buff at a particular time, you've got the versatility of doing that. So I talked about Iroh the Tea Master, or Tea Master. So here he is. He creates a food token as well. But at the beginning of combat on your turn, you can have target opponent gain control of a permanent you control. If you do, you make a 1/1 white ally creature token, and you put +1 counters on it for each permanent you own that your opponents control. So there's a few ways to make allies in this to take advantage of Haru. Whenever an ally enters, he gets to Earthbend, but there isn't lots of ways, but there's a few ways. We got Suki here. Whenever she attacks, you create a white ally creature token. We have Sun Warriors. They've got Firebending, and you can use that for their ability to create 1/1 ally creature tokens. And with the Firebending Ascension, you can double that amount. Firebending X, it's the number of creatures you control. Hopefully with all the Earthbending, that's quite a few creatures. United Front, create X 1/1 ally creature tokens and put a +1 counter on each creature you control. You could even make just one white ally if you want, and put +1 counters on each creature you control. And the Machinist. It's kind of a weird one to have in here. So you can create a 5/5 colorless vehicle artifact token named Zeppelin. It'll have flying. I mean, that's pretty cool. It's something to do if you didn't want to cast a spell or if you had the mana for it. But the main thing is, at the beginning of your end step, untap each other artifact creature you control. If you've been metal bending, not just earth bending, but metal bending your artifacts, you can untap those artifact creatures. So your mana dorks you could use again on other people's turns. So I find that kind of handy for that, if not situational. Here we have some protection. We got App as Steadfast Guardian, so you can flash him in and protect your creatures, and whenever they come back, you get to create a 1/1 white ally. Yay. Or you could just use them to bring them in and create those allies. We got something to bring back a permanent card. I'd probably bring back one of my most threatening things. Earth Shape, you get to Earthbend 3, so more Earthbending. And each creature you control with power less than or equal to that land's power gains hexproof and indestructible. Another way to protect those creatures. And Ankh Shelter, or Teferi's Protection. A lot of people already know that this is a great card to keep you going at least one more turn. There's a little bit of removal. Got this Cityscape Leveler. So when you cast a spell, whenever a creature attacks, you destroy up to one target non-land permanent. Like an Eldrazi Light. It's an attack or an attack trigger, Firebending Ascension, and we can turn it into an Eldrazi Light. But you can Earthbend it as well. Maybe not as effective, but you can keep it from getting destroyed permanently. Meteor Sword. Again, you can metal bend it. use it as a chump blocker, and use its enter the battlefield effect once again, which is when this equipment enters, destroy target permanent. Also, you could use it to buff up somebody by equipping it to them, but barrels of blasting jelly. With all that mana, you should be able to metal bend this, spend 5 mana, tap it, sack it, have it come back, and it deals 5 damage to a target creature. So you can use it over and over if you keep metal bending it. And Blasphemous Act. It's a good board wipe. But with the Walls of Basing Say, you'll be safe. Everybody else's creatures will get blown up, most likely, if they're 13 or less. So we got some things in here to be almost like win cons, like Crystalline Armor. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 for each land you control and has trample. If you put that on Toph, the first Metalbender, which is your commander, or if you have another commander, with all the lands you may have at this point, you could potentially do commander damage. Beastmaster Ascension. This is something I'd like to look for as soon as I can. Attack with at least 7 creatures, and we get that +5/+5 buff on all our creatures. It just makes you a menace. And Taunting Challenge. All creatures able to block target creature this turn do so. It's a good way to get your damage through and potentially take somebody out. So we do have 3 tutors in here. Lifelong Friendship. You could search your library for a creature card, reveal that card, put it into your hand, and shuffle. So I'd probably be looking for the Badger Mole Cub early on, or Boomy a little bit later on. Just depends what you need at the time. Worldly Tutor. You can search your library for a creature card, reveal it, then shuffle and put the card on top. You could cast that just before it's your turn on the end step of the other person, and you get ready to pull the creature you'd like to pull. Again, it could be the Badger Mole Cub, it could be the Badger Mole. Maybe you want all your creatures to have trample and run at them. And then we got Enlightened Tutor. Lets you look for an artifact or enchantment. I mean, you could look for the Walls of Basing Say. Personally, early on, I like to look for Beastmaster Ascension. Really buff all your creatures. And the last card I have here is Storm of Memories. Now, I only put this card in here because it looks fun. It has Storm. And you get to exile an instant or sorcery card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard at random, and you could cast it without paying its mana cost. If it would be put into the graveyard, exile it. I really just put it in here because I like the artwork and I think it looks fun. Will I do a lot with it? Probably not. But I like a little bit of chaos in my decks. And that was the last card. So I hope that helped you out if you're looking for some clarification for some things or some ideas or whatnot. And remember, you can utilize whatever you like and make the decks your own. Thanks for watching.